Vinay, it is such a pleasure to have you here with me today. We were,
Miriam, finally, I'm here and we're speaking.
yeah, we're just, when we had our exploration call last week, we were actually surprised how we're orbiting around each other for years on LinkedIn and never had the opportunity to actually meet in person.
Yes, that's the amazing part of the virtual world. Once we find each other, we can connect and have these really fun conversations. So,
Yeah.
looking forward to this.
Yeah. And I always kick it off with the same question.
Mhm.
Do you call yourself? No. Here we go. I asked the same question for 350 times. When have you started? Today is I'm a broken record. Okay.
That's okay. It happens.
Okay. Gordon, cut that out. I started recording the first episodes for my new podcast. And I think now I'm
Ah, that's why. That's why
so I've done the same thing for
you've
300.
forgotten which format. Yeah,
And this
right.
week I recorded it twice. And now after 350 times, I'm just totally confused.
It's muscle memory. It's change management, internal change management.
It's funny, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
When did you start calling yourself a facilitator? Assuming that you do.
Oh, yes, I do call myself a facilitator. Uh, I probably called myself a facilitator in 2005 or six. Uh, but in the truest sense of a facilitator, that is a process facilitator, I would probably say closer to 2008.
Mm, what made the difference?
Well, between 2005 to 2008, I thought I used to facilitate, right? It was a nicer word than calling ourselves a trainer.
Mm,
Uh, but then in 2008, you discovered both the art, the science, the methodologies, and all of that. And then I discovered that I was facilitating, maybe not necessarily completely. And in 2008, I made that shift to learning more about pure process facilitation.
mm.
And that's the year I did my first pure process facilitation, which is zero content.
Beautiful. So you
Uh,
went from trainer to pure facilitation.
yeah,
So, and training then I assume is almost pure content, then maybe with some facilitative elements.
correct. Yeah. So I would have probably said between 2005 to 8, I was a facilitative trainer,
Hmm.
or a trainer who uses facilitative methodologies. But in 2008, I was asked to run a workshop where there was zero content, was just helping the group achieve an outcome. And I walked out of that meeting and say, okay, I did facilitation, right?
Mm. And was it then like coming home? Or because I can imagine that it's not even imagining, it is a mindset shift to move from being the subject matter expert, having the responsibility to transfer knowledge to the person who is maybe even holding back of sharing your knowledge, your opinion.
Yeah, it was a mindset shift. Uh, but actually, the mindset shift for me was easier than this shift in skills,
Mm,
right? It's about, it was actually a relief in a way to let go of the responsibility of content.
mm,
Uh, but the skills needed to do it in a very, I'm going to repeat the word, in a skillful way and hold the space and be fully present and just be listening and then reflecting back what you heard. All of those skills took a little bit more time to develop.
mm. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just thinking that there are some trainings that I do. I know that someone could wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'd be able to give the training without any glitch
Mhm.
and the group would be happy. And I
Yeah.
would never facilitate a process if someone wakes me up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I can do both now, actually.
Oh, wow.
Right. Yeah. Uh, I, before we started, I was telling you, right? With the frustration of many of my co-facilitators and my colleagues, I'm very comfortable being very emergent.
Hmm.
Uh, as long as in the back of my head, I have a structure in place and I know the general flow, I don't need to prep as much as I needed to before. So I can probably do both today. Wake me up early in the morning and say, go do this piece of content or go facilitate a strategy workshop. I can do both.
Mm. And is this experience or is this personal growth?
Oh, good question. Both. And I usually tell people take it when somebody tells me I do a bit of both. I say give me a don't sit on the fence. Which one is it more, right? So I'm now telling myself that. I would probably say personal experience first, or personal growth first, and then the experience.
Why would you say that?
The growth is I look for these kinds of opportunities.
Hmm.
I enjoy them. I thrive in them. I seek them out very actively. So that's the personal. I mean, I do more of my work there in some months than I do on the training side or on the content side. There are some months where I'm largely only doing process work.
Mm.
So, that's choice I made. But by making that choice, I'm gaining the experience. I'm getting the opportunities to sharpen my skills, to try new things, to learn the nuances of just holding space or handling different kinds of audiences. And so I would say personal growth leads to experiences for me.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, interesting. Thank you. Because on the one hand, I was thinking the more we repeat something, the more we are facilitating strategy workshops, the more we know somehow the patterns, we have an idea of the dynamics, we scan the room, see the people, and then
Yeah, I know.
emergence
Yeah,
becomes easier. On the other
correct.
hand, there's also the piece of personal growth of um, confidence and trust. I can hold the space even whatever happens, and I don't get triggered. And
Mm,
I I can be just this rock in the storm.
yeah, yeah. I agree. So to me, I used to be. I mean, in fact, I agree with you. Experience leads to personal growth. But to me, I put personal growth because personal growth, in terms of seeking to do these kinds of
Mm.
experiences, leads to even more personal growth, right? So
Yeah,
it's a chicken or egg. Is it personal growth or experience that
yeah, yeah,
comes
yeah, yeah.
first?
And
Right.
what did you need to learn in order to get there? And what did you need to unlearn to succeed there?
There was a lot to learn. I thought I knew a lot, but I did not. So there was a lot to learn. The unlearning was a little bit more challenging, right? Because that's muscle memory that you have built,
Hmm.
mental muscle memory. So unlearning was the need to have structure, the need to be the person in charge, the need to be the need to be the center of the conversation, uh, unlearning all of that and just letting that go took a little bit longer. And I couldn't learn a lot of new things from a deeper perspective uh, till I unlearned it. So there was a phase where I was trying to unlearn, but learning facilitation, but I was doing facilitation
Mm.
until I unlearned all of this muscle memory. I couldn't become a facilitator. I wasn't being one.
Mm.
And when the unlearning happened, it was a great combination of I'm not just doing facilitation, I'm being a facilitator.
Mm.
I don't need to be the center. I don't even need to be there. And there was a one of the most hilarious experiences I had, which was such a learning for me, was in I think 2012 or 14. I think 2013, I think it was. It was amazing.
Would you like to share that?
Yeah, so I was asked to work with a leadership team that was trying to outline the strategy for the next 2, 3 years. So there was the country leader, all his direct reports, maybe about 16 and one level below that. It's about 16 or 17 of them. So I spent a lot of time designing the flow, divergence to convergence, all the methodologies, and it was in an offsite in a mountain resort up in the hills. So we got there, we had breakfast, we started, and I hadn't slept very well the previous night. So at around post lunch, around 2 p.m., so I outlined on a flip chart. Okay, step one, this is what we're going to do. This is the outcome that you all want to achieve. Are we aligned? They said yes. I said, here are the 3 steps I'd like you to do. Step one, do this. Step two, do this. Step three, take as much time as you need, but as you all want, you have a hard stop. It wasn't my hard stop. Uh, you might discover you need more time in step one, which means then you'll have to figure out your time and assign roles to keep track of it. So they started work, and I was around answering questions if they had a process question, and I had a splitting headache. So I just thought, okay, they seem to be working. Let me go up to my room, grab some aspirin, just sit down, calm down, and come down after 10 minutes. I went up to my room. I decided to close my eyes just for 10 minutes and ended up sleeping for 90 minutes. I woke up an hour and a half later in panic, saying, oh my God, I have failed as a facilitator. I've disappeared. So I went back in the room and they were still in step three. They were finalizing it. And I just went in the middle and said, "Mhm, okay, guys, can you just, uh, and they achieved the outcome. And
And nobody noticed.
nobody noticed I wasn't there. And in the spirit of transparency, I said, guys, thank you so much. And I just want to be really honest with all of you. I don't know if you noticed, I was away for 90 minutes. I went up to my room and they all looked at me and said, that's okay. We didn't notice. You gave us very clear instructions what to do. You outlined the process for us. We assigned roles amongst ourselves and we did it. Thank you, Vinay. And I was thinking, huh,
Huh.
am I now the invisible facilitator?
Literally.
Literally, right? Literally.
Upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it wasn't intentional. It was a pure mistake on my part, if you want to call it that. But that was a huge learning for me, reflecting on that experience.
Mm.
I could have got it wrong in so many ways. I may not have given them instructions. I may have only told them step one and said, I'll come back in 10 minutes for step two. But you
That is.
trust. So
Mhm.
the principle of trust the wisdom of the group, right? So I even learned that.
Yeah. And isn't it funny how much these buzzwords or sentences, almost mantras, suddenly show how true they are only when we experience them for real for the first time?
Exactly.
Yeah. And as you know, I'm working on a book that I call Unprofessionalism. And I would love to look at your anecdote from this perspective a bit, because suddenly
Yeah.
disappearing could be perceived as
That's the,
highly unprofessional.
oh yeah. I
Yeah.
had guilt for days. When it was time for me to send them an invoice for the work, I was thinking, it's not there. Did I serve the group? Did I discount it? Right. They haven't said anything to me, but I have to be really fair about it. And
So
you
you
know,
did
uh,
discount?
no, I
Oh,
did. I did.
good.
But But the guilt
Yeah.
in my head was, as a facilitator, I need to be there.
Mm.
How can I not be there? I beat myself up thinking this was so unprofessional of me.
And,
And by the way, I laugh at it now, but if you had seen me 3, 6 months or after that event, I had professional trauma. I was like,
I
oh my
totally
God.
believe you. And at the same time, I wonder whether it was the best thing you could have done because it really taught you, I assume, that you don't have to do much, that you can trust the process, that and that the group then also realized that they can trust each other in the process.
Yes, I mean, it's easy in retrospect to sit there and say, hey, I learned all this. But at that point, I was thinking, I missed out adding value by being there, helping them to transition from step one to step two, or answering questions when they were going from step two to step three. Maybe I missed seeing if they were involving everybody, or did somebody feel uninvolved because I, as a facilitator, was not watching the
Mm.
dynamic. So there was so much going through my
And there's so many
head.
shoulds and assumptions of what are the tasks of a facilitator. And the question is this true? Do we
Yeah.
need to, so do we need to make them aware that they have to involve everyone? Or what are we interfering with if we do? And what other
Right.
dynamic are we inducing in the system?
Yeah. Yeah. What if?
Mm.
What did I not do? What did I do? Right.
Yeah.
It was, and it, except for one or two colleagues right after that event where I shared this experience with, and and it was shared with a sense of shame and horror, right? Saying, "Oh my God, guys, can you believe I did this? It was so stupid of me, and I can't believe I'm never going to do this again." But over the years, I've learned that what was the did the group achieve the outcome that they intended? Yes. Did the group feel satisfied? And I did speak with everybody, and I had follow-up calls with every single one as part of the process. And not one of them ever shared with me that they felt excluded or their voice was not heard. And I was like, so over that, I kind of relaxed. Say, okay,
Mm.
because if one of them had said to me, I just felt not heard by the group, and I don't know if it was luck or it was just the dynamic of that group,
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
which they were very mature senior audience. They figured it out, but it could have gone bad in so many ways.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I wonder, I'd assume that if you hadn't trusted the group, your adrenaline or your excitement, your doubt, all of that would have kept you awake anyway. So that's my assumption.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I hope so. I try.
yeah, and and it actually makes me look at this puzzle where such a glitch can you can only do it as a air quotes professional facilitator. You had prepared the process, and hence there was no um, further impact. If you hadn't, if you were a newbie and this happens, it all falls apart. And then we study so hard, or there are many facilitators who take an accreditation, certification, who accumulate all these trainings to very often accumulate different methods. And then they, as it seems, graduate to professional as soon as they can drop all of that.
Yeah, yeah. So I had already got my CPS, Certified Professional Facilitator, by then. And you're right. And that's why I'm a fundamental believer in understanding the polarity. I consider this a polarity of doing facilitation versus or and being a facilitator. It's a
Mm.
scale.
Hmm.
You, you if you're focused on doing, you're learning methods, tools, processes, getting all the certifications, all of that. Uh, and until you become a facilitator, truly, it takes a while. I'm still on that journey. Am I there? I still find myself with things I can improve. Uh, but a lot of us make that error of focusing on doing the best that they can and becoming a master at doing. And we need to realize that the doing is the external, being is the internal.
Mm.
And until it's like the yin and the yang of facilitation. Uh, you've got to have a balance between the both.
Yeah. And how much do you still do or apply methods? Or what is your, or is it all questions and guidance emergent?
No, I still have methods that I use, right? I mean, uh, I believe I'm in service of the group. So at a point in time, we have to keep an eye out for energy. We have to keep an eye out for movement. So there are methods that I have in my toolbox that I may use uh, in, in the journey of trying to achieve the outcome uh, that that help the group to get there.
Mm.
Do I decide what the methods are before I start? I have in the back of my head saying, okay, I could use this, or this divergent method. I don't know which one will work until I start engaging the group. But I need to have my
Mm.
collaterals, either a sticky wall or the post-its or whatever it is, uh, before I go in. But I'll decide which one to use at that moment.
Mm. And I would be very curious if you have a sort of, even if it's unconscious, but way of assessing, okay, um, if the group is very shy, then there's a specific method that you would use rather than another one. Or if there's a lot of hierarchy, then you would use.
Yeah, absolutely, right. So I operate in Asia, and I operate in a very diverse sets of cultures. Hierarchy plays a role in some of them. Some organizational cultures are much more hierarchical than others. People won't speak up; they'll let the senior person go first, and all of that. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. Even as a simple thing like a brainstorming process, it's easy to have everybody stand around, grab a marker, and say, "Go put your idea on a whiteboard." Right? Um, very strong hierarchy culture. Uh, a lot of the times, they're waiting for the senior leader to go up first
Mhm.
and put their ideas, and then the others will go and do a plus one, plus one, plus one. Right. Uh, but I've, or if it's a very vocal group, sometimes I say, can I get a can, can I get a scribe volunteer? They say, yeah, I'll grab it. And then say, let's do popcorn. Each of you throw out an idea, the scribe captures it, and I make sure as a facilitator that I give the scribe an opportunity to put a few things on the whiteboard as well.
Mm.
But then I realized that the group, before we even get there, that there's some very vocal voices who will popcorn 100 of them, and maybe the rest of the
Love the
team may
idea of
just have,
popcorn.
yeah, may have only 10. So then I say, okay, I'm realizing I plan to use a popcorn scribe method, but I'm sensing that this group, there's a few quieter voices, more reflectors. I'm sensing it even before we get there. So then I'm going to probably switch to saying, okay, we're going to brainstorm. And what I'm going to do is hand out post-it notes. I'd like each one to give a minimum of three ideas,
Mm,
one per post-it note, and let's put that up there.
mm,
And I won't ask you to put them up there until you've finished all three.
mm.
Write three, and if you could write more than more, and just put your hand up when you are done with your list. Everyone has to have a minimum of three. So uh, once everyone hits the threshold of three, and some have got more, I say now you can all rise at the same time and put it up there, right? So that's a so then so the really vocal ones have nine post-its, but it's okay. Everyone else, there's many who have at least three.
Mhm.
So that decision I won't have made till I start to understand the dynamics of the group, till I experience that in the room.
Yeah. Mm,
But the method is still brainstorming.
yeah.
It's divergence, but the way I use it would be so contextual to the group.
Mm. Yeah. And I mean, brainstorming is just one word that
Structure. Yeah, it's a
is a
structure,
structure.
right?
So, yeah, there's so many ways you can brainstorm with a group. So, thank you for this example. I think that's very helpful. When do you think someone could call themselves a professional facilitator? What makes a professional facilitator?
Uh, that's a tough question to answer. There are many people who call themselves a facilitator who do nothing close to facilitation, right? So there are many people who call themselves a professional facilitator. And so to me, the term professional facilitator is, let's take away the word facilitator from it. Professional is if a large part of your work or your profession is in process facilitation.
Hmm.
Is in so if you're a group process, if you're a professional group process facilitator, uh, and a large part of your work is doing that, then it's part of your core profession, right? So the term profession, I've never heard of a part-time doctor. The doctor, when you get your medical degree, you're a doctor.
Mm.
You can choose to practice it uh, every day, or you can choose to practice it, but you're in the medical profession.
It's
If you
like
think about it,
yeah, it's a commitment to the craft.
right?
That's a good one. And I wonder whether, and I think facilitators are real facilitators. It's very difficult for us to put our head down.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we end up facilitating social events also, right?
Yes,
Uh,
and might be hated by our families and friends.
yeah, exactly. Or we're out with a group of friends and they say, where should we go out to dinner? Oh, yeah, instead of arguing about it, let's just go one by one now. Let's throw out there, see if, and you're like, well, maybe I should just shut up.
Yeah. Okay, so it's basically so one way to define it is to see do they have clients who are willing to pay for it, and then basically they earn the title.
Well, not
Or is it
necessarily
the
pay for
commitment
it,
to the
but
craft?
yeah, it's commitment to the craft and is it a large part of their work, right? So uh, you might be a professional facilitator in-house in a company,
Mm,
and you're called by your internal clients to come and help facilitate various things. It's part of your core job. So yes, uh, so a lot of OD practitioners and companies, a large part of the work is facilitating focus groups, strategy conversations, change management. So it is. They are in many ways professional facilitators like us who are external who do paid work with clients.
mm, yeah. And you mentioned that there are a lot of people who call themselves facilitators.
Yeah, and that's why. And if you really like, and I'm the first one to admit that's what I thought I was from till about 2006, 7 or so, right? I thought I was a facilitator and discovered I was a facilitative trainer.
Hmm.
So it's on that continuum of trainer, teacher, trainer, all the way up to group process facilitator.
Yeah.
So it depends on how you. Uh, so that's why I kind of say, to me, if when you say facilitator, I think of group process facilitation,
Yeah. Yeah.
which we learn and we can apply it in other contexts as well.
Yeah. I remember I was at the ecstatic dance festival. So I don't know whether you're familiar with ecstatic dance, but it's basically everything is,
No,
there are only four rules. You're barefoot. There are no substances, no alcohol, no drugs. There is, um, and there's another rule. Anyway, and you can dance however you want. And this was an entire festival. So when someone asked me, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a facilitator." And I would say 80% of the others say, "Oh, me too." So there were yoga facilitators and breathwork facilitators, um, and then I realized that there is a lot of potential for misunderstandings with the term
right,
of facilitation.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
and still, what I found then very interesting is that when well done, we're using similar tools to achieve a similar outcome.
right,
Defining the container, creating the safe space, making sure that everyone can be at the best version of themselves, whether in thinking or in doing or in dancing or in being themselves.
yeah, yeah. So I do think it's a very universal skill when we bring groups together, right?
Mm.
The concept of a facilitator is very, very, very universal. Uh, so to me, I have absolutely no problem with anyone calling themselves a facilitator. That's fine. I mean, more power to them, right?
Yeah.
That's great.
And still at the same time, and I think that's something we're not talking about enough. And I'm actually curious because it doesn't happen only in the field of facilitation, but nowadays it's very easy to grab the lingo and to have the appearance of a facilitator. It's very easy, um,
Right.
without actually having had done the skills or the experience. And I think there's a danger to that, when working with groups. And at the same time, who is there to judge?
Right. Correct. And that is why I think professional bodies, uh, where you bring communities of like-minded people doing similar work, who learn from each other, share best practices, who sort of elevate
Mm.
each other's skill becomes very, very important.
Yeah. So, for instance, like the IAF.
Correct. Yeah. And
Um,
that's so I discovered them in 2006, and
mhm,
it's still I'm a very active member and served on the board and done a lot of that stuff because you sort of find your professional family
mhm,
of people. Uh, to what we said, right? Yoga, breath, all of that. Yes, that's the wider universe of facilitators, but working with groups using processes, uh, using similar language, like what's the desired outcome, divergence, the convergence, that narrows a field of people interested in that, be
mm,
it communities, nonprofits, corporates. We're all building the experience and the knowledge base within I would say smaller, more cohesive group, right?
mm,
There's a little bit of so that the communities help.
mm. So, and then if I understand it correctly, it would on the one hand be the signal to the outside world: I'm part of this community, hence I'm committed to the craft and I'm investing in personal growth or in the growth of the skill. And at the same time, it's also a peer learning group. There
Yeah,
might be a certification or accreditation. So that's then also, again, a signal to the outside world.
correct. Yeah, and also it's uh, similar experiences that you can, like you said, peer learning that you can share, you can learn from. There are methods that and processes like that are being developed on a regular basis that I may not have exposure to, but then they
Hmm.
bring it to forums and conferences and all of that.
Yeah.
So it keeps that the learning is uh, a huge momentum
Mm.
there.
And then the best way to signal or to show or to stand out in times where everyone can basically call themselves a facilitator would be to show that you're investing or that you're part of a community. Um,
Uh, yes, I partially agree with you
mm,
where one is to show, but that's the optics part of it, right? There's a lot of people who show they're part of that. That's what I said. But the real measure of success or measure of or the evidence is when if you're so you could show. Okay, let me put it this way. Let me simplify it.
now it's
I
getting
know
juicy.
people. Yeah, I know people who've been showing up to facilitation conferences uh, a couple of times, a few times. But when I've seen them at work, their skills haven't sharpened.
Mm,
Nothing has changed. But they've been very good at leveraging the fact that they showed up.
mm,
They
mm,
did this, they did that. But does that translate into real sharpening of their skills and elevating their role or their service to the group when they're with the group?
mm,
And I don't see that. So I think it's got to be both. You show up, you learn, you reflect, you apply.
mhm.
If that application piece isn't there,
Yeah.
you know, every book I read, I try to find at least two or three things. There are many things I take away, but I try to find at least two or three things that I can use in my life.
Mm,
If I don't, and I try, maybe I may not be successful in all three, but I'm hoping I'm successful in at least one.
mm. And I can imagine that you're hosting the Shiny Happy People podcast, interviewing not only facilitators. And I can imagine that there's a lot you learn about facilitation from the non-facilitators.
Oh, yes, many of them are using facilitation principles in their work. And they may not even call themselves facilitators.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So absolutely. And I learned a lot from them.
Mm. I recently interviewed a hot balloon pilot. Um, and she would have never called herself a facilitator. She's a pilot.
Hmm.
And still, everything she had to do to control the group dynamics in such a small space, 2,000 feet up the air. Um, so, yeah. And I think with what we are describing, we're at that's where my puzzle starts. And I think that's the dilemma of many facilitators that they're doing the work. And then the better we get, the more invisible we become, right? So the group is not praising the facilitator because they're like, oh, we could have done it ourselves. They might be grateful for the process. Um, and then how do we know, right? So I
Right.
think, how can a facilitator stand out um, or yeah, without, and there are many who don't, and especially facilitators who really believe in the craft. They don't want to go on social media and praise and talk about all the great stuff they've done. So I think there's a real um, dilemma here.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Right. It also depends. So let's put it this way. I'll be an optimist. Most facilitators, if not all, want to do meaningful work that has an impact. I don't think many people get up in the morning and say, I just want to go do a quick facilitation event and make as much money and never meet the client ever again. And I couldn't care less what happens, right? I don't think
Yeah,
if they're at that stage in their life, then they've got a bigger problem with facilitation.
very true.
uh, the ability to fold. So there's three parts to this equation. We all want to do meaningful impact, but meaningful impact is not always in our hands.
Mm,
One is the way we contract with our clients.
mm,
Uh, so that's the first part, the way we choose to contract. If we ourselves position facilitation as a band-aid, as an event, we are training our stakeholders, and I won't just say clients as an external, but even for internal practitioners, that you call in facilitators if there's a particular event or a problem that needs to be solved, right? The second is the client's ability to, or their capability to work with us over a long-term period. So even if we say, look, I know you guys want to do a strategy and vision stuff, but if you really want that strategy and vision, do you just want a vision statement or do you want a strategy for the next year? Or do you also want to implement that strategy? And they say, we want to implement it. Okay. So then I need to first understand all the pre-contracting work, run that, and then it would be great if I could be part of that process, or it's important for me to be part of that process, or at least if I'm not part of the process, you have a good program manager or a project manager in-house who keeps track of it, does check-ins, brings the group back every 3 months to see how much the needle has moved, hears people's concerns, and do all of that. And the clients go, oh, we don't have that internal capability. And ooh, that's going to cost us a lot more than we thought. So if they are kind of at that stage, then how does it's not feasible for us to measure the impact.
mm,
But and the third one is, do we have the patience to stick with that client long enough, and do we have the skill? Because facilitating a strategy workshop and tracking and enabling the group over the next 3 quarters for it to become muscle memory and execution is a commitment on our part as
mm,
well. Sometimes we enjoy the process of jumping from event to event,
mm.
right?
Yeah.
So I am, I'll be the first to admit, I used to be one of those. I used to love doing that event I told you where I was up in the mountains I did that. They loved it. I did a quick check-in with one-on-one call with all of them. They had somebody, I documented all their outputs, sent them the report, and then did a 3 month check-in with them. And I was done. Was it impactful? I think so. That was impactful, but the strategy they came up with, did they implement it over the next 1 or 2 years, and did it move the needle? I have no idea.
Mm,
But today I'm at a stage where I tell clients, look, I really want to work with you guys long term. And they say, yeah, we really want that as well. We have the trust. So I'm with the client now. It's been a year and a half. I'm still working with them every quarter. Even if I'm not there, I'm working with them virtually, remotely, designing with their internal teams, and I'm seeing the needle move.
mm,
They are seeing the needle move. They are happy that they have continuity. So they used to use different facilitators, like for this annual retreat, they use one, next one, they used a different one. Now it's been a year and a half, and it'll probably go on another year, 6 months to a year. So there's one, I want to do it, but also the clients realize the benefit of doing it.
mm,
And now I'm seeing their organizational transformation.
mm.
I'm loving it, right? So
Yeah.
if you ask me, am I making an impact? Yes. Can we measure the impact? Yes.
Mm. Beautiful. And
but that's one out of five projects I'm involved in right now. That's one.
and I assume that the other projects are also longer term, that this is what you do now.
Uh, no, two of them are events. One of them, this is the long one, and the other one's like more midterm.
Mm,
They're willing to commit only for this financial year, right? Because that's their budget. Because this is now, I'm into two financial years with that longer term project, and we're going to go into the third financial year soon.
yeah. And it sounds a little bit, I cannot help myself but think about dating. So
Yeah.
before you engage in the longer term relationship where you're really committed and where you're also willing to go through the maybe difficult parts with the client and with the group, um, you cannot do that with just anyone. And you need to have a sort of maturity as a client, but also as a facilitator in order to really commit to this longer term relationship. And
Yeah.
you need the
I
skills.
mean, I'm not moving in with the client yet.
And
Yeah, but it is, right? So are you suggesting a client and facilitator dating app now? Where if I,
yeah, and maybe that's what it's needed. And it's actually funny because it sounds as if, so I must admit that I never graduated over the stage of the one-off events because I realized that I don't enjoy the longer term commitment, the process facilitation over long term. And I now focus on training,
Mhm.
facilitative training, because that's my thing. And
By the way, it's still 30-40% of my thing as well,
mm,
right?
and
We
yeah,
have to find multiple sources of work. And if I did only group process facilitation, I'd probably, I don't know.
burnout.
I've never done only one of something. I've had myself being pulled with different skill sets and different things, which I also enjoy.
Yeah, and polyamorous relationships are very exhausting,
Yeah.
right? So that's a different level.
Yeah. Oh, you're still stuck on that anecdote, that metaphor, Miriam.
Um, and what I wonder is whether we have to gain the experience in these one-off events and maybe fail a few times because there are certain things we only learn through experience. And then whenever we are ready, the client will also notice by how we step into the conversation in the contracting and how we show up in the place. And then something maybe more longer term will develop.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely good. This client, we've been working with them both on the facilitative and training side on event-based facilitations for a while, right? And they also evolved. They saw us evolving, me and my colleagues and myself, and we both grew, and that's when the match made in heaven, using
Mm.
your metaphor.
Dum, 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 dum. And
Yeah.
I was just wondering,
It's not love at first sight, love at 24th sight, or something like that.
that's the one that lasts, usually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and I then was just wondering, because coming back to my initial thought, there's so much noise, there's so much bling bling around facilitation. And from what I hear, what I sense is those who are really the master facilitators, they don't need that. Um, and then how can we fail safely at these beginnings? So damage control. Um, is there some, or maybe the IIF does it, sort of apprenticeships?
Not apprenticeship. There's opportunities to do practice sessions with your peer groups. There's opportunities to facilitate at conferences, which is very interesting because you're facilitating to a peer group of facilitators, right?
Herding cats.
So, yeah, which is an interesting challenge because if you can manage that, it's easier to manage the clients. So
Yes.
there's plenty of opportunities for you to sort of practice that. Um, there's this thing about something you said earlier, right? We learn from failure. While that is true, we also learn from mediocre work.
Mm.
We learn from work that we walk out of. The client is happy, but we're not happy.
Oh, yeah.
We learn from our own complacent behavior at times. So, to me, reflection and uh, feedback, and without becoming overtly self-critical, some level of
Mm.
positive self-criticism is useful as a learning as well. You don't always have to fail,
Hmm. Yeah. And,
right? But the failure could be only in your mind. It doesn't have to be a failure that's seen by everyone.
yeah. Yeah, I think that was the beauty of the Never Done Before community, where we could just practice new things.
Right.
Um, and while you spoke, I also realized how much I learned from sitting in workshops and just sensing, this doesn't feel good to me. So, oh, maybe I wouldn't do that as a facilitator. So, assuming the role of a participant, while keeping the facilitation hat on. Um,
Yeah.
there's a lot to
Yeah.
learn there.
And it's also about, what I said, personal growth and experience. I was invited by a client to attend their internal facilitator academy for new facilitators. And I'd already been doing this. I mean, this was just a few years ago. And the client was so apologetic, saying, "Look, Vinay, you're going to go to, I'm embarrassed to ask you to go there because you have so much, you should be running that, but this is part of our compliance. Would you mind?" And I said, "You know what? I'm okay. I'm going to go because I can learn from another community of facilitators I've not worked with. Plus, the facilitators running it are people I know and respected. So I can learn from them." And it was fun. It was 3 days invested of my time, but I walked away with so one, it was validation that there's things that I'm doing well. There are things that I'm doing that I could do better, and there were new things I learned that I added to my toolbox. And there was a wonderful feedback process. And I received some feedback that honestly surprised me, and I loved it.
Mm,
Right. So it's about uh, but I know of people who decided not to go to that event because they said, "Oh, no, look, I'm senior. This looks like it's a beginner course,
mm.
a beginner program." And I'm like, hey,
And it's so funny because what does it say? We spoke about the personal growth, the ego that we have to leave at the door as a so all of this as becoming a facilitator. And then if we're still in the mindset of, oh, I'm a senior, I cannot learn from that. What does it say
yeah,
about the journey?
yeah, and also, of course, some people said, well, there's an opportunity cost. There's the 3 days that I'm spending in
That's a
that
different,
room.
yeah, that's a different thing. Yeah.
I could go earn. And I'm like,
Mm.
sure, I could as well, but I give myself about 5 to 10 days in a year for my own personal development. And I
Yeah.
just did the 3 days that have gone there,
Yeah.
which is great.
Beautiful. What remains your facilitation challenge?
Mhm. I don't know what I don't know. So I'm sure there are plenty of challenges, but there's a few. There's I want to do some strategic M&A integration facilitation. when two leadership teams of two companies come together, how do you define the culture of the new firm? There's some really interesting stuff happening in that space. I haven't had the opportunity to do that, but that's more like the bucket list of types of facilitation
Hmm.
that I want to get into. But to me, it's the challenge is facilitating groups, uh, facilitating different kinds of group dynamics that I've not encountered.
Can you give an example?
I haven't done so. I'm much more a corporate facilitator. I work with the corporate field. I've done some in the field of education with school teachers and stuff like that, but I haven't done a lot of. I've done a few nonprofits, but I haven't done a lot of community-based facilitation. I haven't done too much government work or United Nations agency work and stuff like that. And I'd like to just try that.
Mm. And may I double click on that? Because I think that's interesting. I would be curious what you assume to be different. So, what are the particularities starting with the M&A? So, you have two different companies merging into one. What do you think is the particular skill set needed for that? And how would you see the facilitation to be different when you then go into the UN or NGO or
No.
teachers?
Yeah, with teachers, I've really enjoyed it because for them, they're learning methods and tools to take back into their classrooms to elevate the student experience of learning, right? So it's really helping them learn methods and tools. It's almost like uh, train the teachers or facilitate the teachers to use
Mm.
facilitation. That I've loved that, and they soak it in like sponges. Uh, with the UN group, because very often when you do government intergovernment agencies, uh, I have never done it, so I can only speak from hearing uh, some of my colleagues who have been doing it, some of my peers, I doing this work, and they say hierarchy plays a significant role. It's
Mm.
not deep. Things move a little slower. You've got a whole bunch of organizational dynamic. Many of them are volunteers, so the accountability is different.
Mm.
So, I'm looking forward to being challenged in those things.
Mm, yeah. And then I can imagine that, especially in these spaces, there might be less heterogeneous. So,
Yes,
so in corporates, I think there is a certain international culture that has developed where you can assume certain things to just work a certain way, independent of where the company is located.
correct. And the interesting thing is like stakeholder conversations. You don't necessarily get access to all of that in those days. There's somebody who says, "Here's the mandate. This is what you need to do, and this is the time you've been given." There's a lot of non-negotiables that you need to do
Mm,
in developmental world.
yeah.
Whereas in the corporates, you can say, "Hey, uh, one of my colleagues, he says they don't pay as much in the corporate world, as much as the corporate world in the developmental world, but the work that you do in the group that you are working with are really trying to do meaningful work on the ground, and that's where they get their sense of achievement in. And but then there's very strict boundaries and limitations, whereas in the corporate world you can negotiate a lot of them.
Yeah. And I've interviewed a few facilitators of NGO work. And I was amazed by the complexity because also it's everyone is there because of passion.
Yeah,
And then if you have a lot of passionate people coming together, there are a lot of different opinions, and very often the devil lies in the detail.
yeah,
And how to achieve this, we have a common vision, but what does it actually mean? And do we agree on how we want to achieve that? Um,
yes. Yeah, so it's just it's never been about you know
yeah,
it's not even the money right there at that level, but
very different work, I think.
it's a very different kind of work, and the way I show up will be different. It's It's definitely put me out of my comfort zone, which is
Yeah.
yay.
Okay, audience, if you have a little challenge for Vinay,
Yes,
just
please.
kidding. Um, and so does it mean, is there still a situation where you walk in the room and something happens and you're like, oh no?
Oh no, it always. I walk into the room and I expect something to happen,
Mm.
and I'm like, at the end of the day, oh my God, nothing happened. Something's wrong.
Mm.
So I expect the unexpected. I expect conflict to emerge. I expect disagreements. I encourage it. For a while, I used to love doing conflict uh, facilitation. That's
Mm.
something that's
What's
like when there's two different functions that are constantly in conflict. They've reached a stage they can't work together. In the corporate world, it's supply chain and finance, maybe,
Mhm.
or finance and sales, or when you get those two groups together. Oh, I love that.
And what is usually, is there something that you would say that's the most underestimated part in such a facilitation? The 80
Time,
20.
time.
Mm.
If you do a good job of surfacing the elephant in the room, the real elephant in the room, you've got to do a very good job of closing the issue or resolving the issue. And sometimes, if they've only given you X amount of time to do it, many facilitators will say, if I surface this, I don't think we'll be able to resolve this. So let's stay hidden. Let's just do a superficial
Mm.
go. And I love surfacing it. And I said, guys, do we want to move this? Yeah, I think we need to stay on a couple of hours, or can we come back to this in a week? Right.
A- And by elephant, you mean, so the way how I imagine it is that they do have a point of conflict, usually involved with finger pointing, but what is actually below that they're not talking
Right.
about? So their shared history or the issues that they don't talk
It's the
about.
root cause, right? It's the root cause, right?
Mm.
Why is it happening? So that is, yeah. So I can give you an example. I was doing this workshop. It was supposed to be a day. By the end of the afternoon on day one, it was an offsite. We were in Goa, if you know that part of India,
Hmm.
which is this coastal beach town. None of us we had all flown in for it. And I had told my stakeholder, the problem statement you're saying cannot be done in a day. I'm sorry, but we only have a day. We need you to do it. I said, okay. Uh, by post launch, we knew that this was a bigger issue and it had surfaced. So I took my key stakeholder aside. I took a couple of, and I said, what do we want to do with this? Do we just want to close it at 5 p.m. because everyone's got flights to catch? 4:30, we need to go. Tell me what's expected of me. And if the wound has been opened,
Mm.
how are you all going to close this? Uh, right? Uh, and they just said, give us a couple of minutes. Can you step away? So I stepped away and I was like, oh, they're going to blame me for opening the wound. They came back and said, we're going to check with our admin whether we can stay an extra night, continue tomorrow, and we're going to try and change everyone's flights. Are you available to stay on for tomorrow?
Beautiful.
And I said, well, I got to move a couple of things around. Let me try. So I went out. We were taking a longer break. So we came back. We asked the group, by the way, do we want to? They said, yeah, we have to close this because this is going to help us in the long run. So that one day became 2 full days. And we
Mm.
actually, well, it was 2 full days. We left post lunch on day two,
And you resolved it?
but we resolved it. I mean, we continued till about 7 p.m. We went out, had drinks, dinner, back in the room in the morning after people having slept on it. And it was really just cathartic for many of them to talk about it.
Mm.
And it was,
Yeah.
but these anecdotes are exceptions.
Hmm.
The fact I can give you only one example where that happened
Yeah.
uh, is very, very rare.
And at the same time, I think if more people would be aware of the return on investment, um, or the opportunity costs of not going there. Um, because I think having the opportunity to really resolve that and then knowing how much faster everything will continue to go in the future, as opposed to returning to work with an open wound, that can be traumatizing.
Well, you know what's the easiest? Don't even open the wound.
Mm,
Don't even go there.
yeah.
And I would have done my job to the happiness of the client at the end of day one. We would have just had some superficial actions. They would have gone away and they would have said, okay, we got one. But hey,
And what do you think is the method or the skill? What have you learned that helped you there? And I'm thinking of nonviolent communication, for instance. Um, I think what I've learned from about nonviolent communication totally changed everything and how I deal with my relationships, with my clients, with groups around conflict. Is there something where you say, "Oh, once I learned that, it helped me with everything else"?
it's a little bit of that. It's a combination, right? It's precision questioning, nonviolent communication, uh, picking up on emotions,
Mm,
asking the awkward questions, allowing silence to
mm.
happen, right?
Nervous system regulation.
Yeah, exactly, right. So it's sort of all of that.
Mm,
It's never one,
yeah.
just one easy. It isn't a magic ingredient that you apply in every situation.
I was hoping you were giving it to us.
I wish there was a. I always say if facilitation could be a pharmaceutical drug, then we just have to pop two pills before we go facilitate, and then we
Yeah.
do an amazing job, and then we're done.
Yeah. And still, I think there is some 80/20 rule to apply here. As you said, okay, sometimes it's time, sometimes it's breaking down how we speak with each other. So,
It's also it's timing as well. Is the group
mm,
ready for it?
mm,
It's also important to recognize I might want to do it, but the group is just not ready for this. It's
yeah,
not the right space time for them to do it. And there are unintended consequences of, opening up the box of skeletons.
yeah. And then we cannot force them anyway, right? So it
Yes, you
must
can't force
be,
them in.
we must have the
Yeah,
consent. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm, wonderful. What is the advice you would give your younger self after 20 years of experience?
Oof. Um, Challenge. I took a while to challenge clients a little bit, which is be confident in yourself so you can challenge. Uh, and the second one is you should have said no to some kinds of projects,
Mm,
which, I don't regret saying yes to them because there are points of time where we take on projects where we need to pay the bills. Let's be practical. When you're in the consulting world, uh, but I was also thinking, had I said no, could I have gone and found more other kind of work? So, or did I just take the easy way out and say yes?
mm. I would love to hear more about that.
Well,
Yes.
no, it's more you just do work that you finish up and you say, okay, I finished it.
Mm,
Did I get joy, a sense of accomplishment? Did I truly enjoy it like some of the other work? Not necessarily,
mm,
but I also reconcile myself to the fact that no, I mean, you can't always enjoy 100% of everything you do, right? I don't enjoy doing expense reports. doing all my bills and collecting my receipts and all of that, but it's got to be done. So same thing sometimes, but it's also sometimes you take on work to build a relationship with the client, with the stakeholder, which then in the long run gets you to more interesting work. So,
Mm, that's also
but
mindset. Yeah.
yeah, but it's also could I have been a little bit more conscious of those choices?
Mm,
When you start your practice, or when you start your consulting practice, there's a point in time where you say yes to everything, right? Because you don't know when's the next piece of work. When you're an independent consultant, I would say, or in a consulting firm, it's sort of a feast or famine. For a few months, you get a lot of work and you're feeling really good, and then suddenly all dries up, and then you're like, "Nice work.
yeah.
I'm going to pay the bills." And yeah, so that's when you start taking on work, and I think it's part of the learning experience.
Mm, yeah. And now, final question. So I'm curious. So how do you know now that how do you assess the work to know, oh yeah, this is a hell yeah.
Well, luckily now I have a team. So I assess the work that, okay, we're going to do this, but it's not going to be me. It's going to be
Mm,
one of my colleagues because it's part of their learning and all of that. So I'm going to do this because I enjoy this. So to me, it's do I want to work with them? Is the work that I'm doing meaningful to me and to them? And the third is, can I make an impact? And fourth, will this lead to a I mean, not in terms of longer term client engagement, but is it something that I can see the impact over a period of working with them, the longer term
mm, thank you. This makes a lot of sense. And it's beautiful then
simple as
to
that.
have a team.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Vinay.
Thank you, Miriam.
This has
This has been
been
fun.
a beautiful exploration.
Brilliant.
Is
Thank
there
you for
anything
having
that
me
you
on
wanted to
this.
share that you didn't share?
That's like, is there a question I have you haven't asked me that you should have asked me? Right? That's what I do. uh, yes. When do we get to meet in person?
Mm, that's a
That's
very
what I
nice
want to know.
question. Yeah,
Yes.
let's make that
One
happen.
day, one day we should have a cup of coffee and have this conversation in person.
Yes, I would love that.
That would be that would be fun.
Yeah, we make that happen.
Yes, we will. Thank you again, Miriam.
Thank you, Vinay.